I want to make more money in 2023. Hopefully my dad could give me more advice. Come on, Dad!
All right, I think I could give you some advice. I think I give everybody some good advice. I'm gonna tell you 5 side hustles you can start today with no money and no experience, and how to determine if it's worth your time in 2023. So the first side hustle we're gonna talk about today is flipping. And I'm not talking about just flipping houses, I'm talking about flipping anything. Flipping is when you go out and find products or find anything out there that you can buy at a cheaper price than you could sell it for. There's many different ways you can find stuff to sell and make money on. I buy tons of stuff on eBay. I buy stuff on Craigslist. I buy stuff on Facebook Marketplace. I buy stuff at trade shows. I buy stuff literally everywhere, garage sales. And you know what? I find good deals and then I take it and then I sell it on another platform for a lot more money. The way to be successful with flipping is to really understand what everything is worth. So back when I was doing baseball cards, that's how I started flipping, baseball cards. And back then there were price guides and we had to study them and learn them and realize what stuff was worth. Well, today in 2023, you could just Google on your phone anything that you want, or you could scan any single barcode or QR code and it'll tell you exactly what it's worth. I actually have a good friend that goes to all the thrift stores and he starts scanning every single book out there, and any book that's worth 20, 30, 40 bucks, he goes and buys it for $1. Literally, he makes hundreds of dollars a day just going through thrift stores, buying books and reselling them on Amazon. So first off, I look to see all the different products that are out there that I know a little bit about or can easily figure out what it's worth by just Googling or asking a friend of mine, and then I go out and I search for those types of items. So I really target in on the stuff that I know I'm gonna know a lot about. It's super important to know what your costs are and what all your fees are gonna be when you sell it, because you might buy something for $10, sell it for $20, and not make any money. So you gotta realize what your costs are. Here are some of the costs. You've got commissions, you've got fees you gotta pay, you've got shipping costs. Maybe sometimes you gotta fix something, clean it, and you gotta understand what all your costs are so you're making the profit that you need to make on every single thing that you buy. So people always ask me, what's one of the most important things about doing this flipping? Well, to me, the most important thing is to always have deal flow coming in. If I could buy 1 or 2 things and make decent money on it, it doesn't really excite me that much. I want to keep buying more and more stuff so I can keep making more money, right? So deal flow is super important. The way that I get deal flow is I let everybody know what I'm buying, and people just keep sending me stuff. And then what I do is I search for all the different thrift stores in the area, the garage sales. I search Craigslist all the time, Facebook Marketplace all the time. And I make sure that I am the first one to see all this stuff, because first to see it is very important. If somebody puts a good deal out there and you're not the first one, guess who's gonna get it? Not you. So you gotta make sure that you beat everyone and you have the big advantage on everyone that there is out there looking at the same stuff that you're trying to look at. The potential to make money on flipping is huge. There are people making millions and millions and millions of dollars out there doing it. I see people doing it with sneakers. I see people doing it with jewelry. I see people doing it with books. Anyhow, I started doing this when I was 15 years old with baseball cards, and I made millions doing that. So the second one I'm gonna talk to you about is very popular. I haven't ever done it myself, but I have a lot of friends that do it that make good money doing it. So what is it? It's doing DoorDash and Uber Eats and Lyft. There's people making a lot of money doing it, but there's a right way and a wrong way to do this. So to be successful doing rideshare, you have to know a few things. First off, you have to know the peak times that people really want stuff, and you gotta realize when are the times that you're gonna get the most money to deliver stuff, and how much your gas is gonna cost, and how much all your costs are gonna be, so you make the most amount of money. I know that I've taken rideshare and Uber Eats a lot lately, and I've seen a lot of people pick me up in Teslas, and a lot of people drop food off for me in Teslas, and I ask them, why do you use Teslas? They're like, you know what? It just lowers my costs so much. I don't have to pay gas. I get to charge it at home. It costs pennies on the dollar. And a lot of these people have solar panels at home, so they don't pay anything for it. If you could do that, you're just gonna make way more money than your competition. Another important thing with ride shares and Uber Eats and all that stuff is what areas you're working in. You don't want to work out in a rural area where you get very, very little amount of customers and a lot of people that aren't calling you and you're just wasting your time. You want to be in a city. You want to be in an area where there's a lot of people so you could boom, 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 go, drop something off, pick somebody up, pick something up. You're not wasting a whole lot of time and driving out of the way to pick people up. So that's a very key important thing. The people that do the best on this do this in the busiest cities where they just are one after another getting more and more jobs. And lastly, if you're doing Uber and Lyft and rideshare type stuff, it's very important that you're very personable and the person that you're picking up and driving really, really likes you. That could be the difference between making $5 or $10 for every single person that you pick up, which could add up to hundreds of dollars at the end of the day. Literally, if people like you, they're gonna leave you good tips. If they don't like you, you're probably not gonna get much. So the third side hustle to get into in 2023 is arbitrage. That's where you are doing like Airbnb, Turo, VRBO. You're using other people's stuff to make a lot of money. Well, what is arbitrage? Arbitrage is when you take somebody's car or your own car, take somebody's house or your own house, and you rent it out for more money than it costs you per month. So for instance, this would be like an Airbnb, a VRBO, a Turo where you're renting your cars out. And there's other things you can do too. I see people now renting out their garages, renting out their pools. There's so many different things now that you can rent out and make money on. And literally, if you own it, you keep all the money minus your mortgage, but you could rent other people's properties maybe for $1,000 a month. And with Airbnb, you might get $4,000 a month off their property. This is the major side hustle for 2023. So I want to clarify right now, I do a lot of Airbnb and I do VRBO. I don't do Turo right now. However, I have a lot of friends doing Turo that are making a killing, and I'm actually in negotiations with them right now to get them more cars to where I can make money with them and have them manage the Turos for me. This is something you're definitely gonna see me start doing in 2023. The way to be successful doing Airbnbs and these other arbitrage type things is to figure out how much you can get per month for whatever it is that you're arbitraging. So for instance, if you want to do Airbnb, you could go on websites like AirDNA and see what the houses in the area should go for the month. And then after you do that, figure out what your expenses are going to be. Maybe it's cleaning expenses that usually you're going to charge to the person staying there. Maybe it's taxes, maybe it's HOA, maybe it's a few different things, maybe some repairs. But figure out what all your costs are going to be, especially if you have someone manage it for you, and then figure out what it's going to cost you to pay for that every single month and how much money you're going to get from the person staying there, and see what the difference is. And make sure that it's enough money to where that particular house in that particular area or that particular car in the particular area that you're renting it out is going to be worth it for you to keep managing it. So I get asked all the time, are there good cities and bad cities where you can do Airbnb? Well, I have Airbnbs all over the country, and the best cities are definitely destination areas, usually like beaches or mountain areas, places that people want to go that's not like something that you could go to near where you live. So for instance, all the homes I have on beaches do way better just in regular towns. Although there's a lot of Airbnbs that do really good near like hospitals and other types of places like that where there's a lot of people that need to stay for short periods of time. Another important thing about Airbnbs is to make sure that the area you're looking for is not oversaturated. I see a lot of people moving into areas that there's so much Airbnb right now and it doesn't always get booked, and that's a mistake. Try to find places where all the Airbnbs in your area get booked almost all the time, and that way you know it's not saturated and you'll be able to make money in that area as well. Another thing to think about when you're doing Airbnbs is to be different than all the other Airbnbs in your area. For instance, do like a bachelorette type theme, or maybe a sports theme, or maybe get a bus and turn that into an Airbnb. Maybe get like some special unique type of place where you do something that not everybody else has, and that will make you unique to everybody else in the area. So the fourth thing I want to talk about on how to make a ton of money in 2023 is getting your own OnlyFans page. No, wait a second. Nah, I'm just kidding. Although I did hear there's just a lot of money in that. But what I really want to talk about was creative financing. So if you've been watching me for a long time and started watching my YouTube channel back last year when I started it, you know that that's one of the main things I'm into, creative financing. And when I say creative financing, you could do creative financing on anything. Mostly what I use it for right now is real estate, but I also buy businesses with creative financing. I buy cars with creative financing and all kinds of other products. And if you use creative financing, you have a big upper hand on everybody else because you can buy so much more than anybody else and you can offer more than anybody else, and you're gonna stand out and basically take market share of whatever the heck you wanna be in. So let me give you a couple examples on creative financing. Well, you've heard a lot of my stories on businesses that I bought with creative financing. You've heard a lot of my businesses with real estate I bought with creative financing, and you can watch these videos up here to see more about it. But let me give you some other examples. So my camera guy needed a new camera, and what he did was he went onto Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace and saw a bunch of different cameras for sale. Now, he saw one that he really wanted that was $3,000, but he didn't have $3,000 to buy it. And what he did was he talked to the guy and he's like, look, I can't give you all $3,000 up front, but maybe I could give you $3,500 and pay you a little bit at a time. And you know what? He made the deal happen. And why was it worth it for him to pay an extra $500? Well, he's making thousands of dollars a month, every single month, filming for me and for other people. And instead of him wasting all his money at one shot, he actually was making payments, and the payments he was actually making a lot more than that with the amount that he was making off that camera. So it was a no-brainer. Check this out. This is live footage of me, Shema, and my buddy Munif negotiating, trying to get this camera for Shema so he could use it.
Me and Munif are about to try and do a substitute deal on a camera.
So this would be a seller finance.
Seller finance.
He doesn't owe money on his equipment. I think he owns his equipment outright.
Yeah.
So it's a seller finance. So he just asked this guy, will you take payments if I pay you a little extra? And the guy actually said, it depends. What are the payments? So that's a really good sign.
At this point,
Well, this is my question for you. What can you afford to pay him for the camera?
500.
Okay, great. Okay, and how much can you put down?
On this camera, I could put 1,000 down.
Okay, so tell him, be like, hey, I'll do 500 down.
500 a month until paid off.
No, don't say 500 a month. If that's what he can afford, he might say do 750 a month, right? But if you say, hey, I can do 250 a month or I can do 300 a month, if he asks you for 600 a month and you're like, hey, look, I'll do 5, he'll feel good, right?
I was basically explaining to him that this is what you do. You make films. Say, let me show you some films I make.
Yeah, that's really smart.
I'm gonna make some money. That's the reason why.
He said, oh yeah, we can do that.
I would start off saying, that's great. I just want you to know I work for these companies. I'm going to use this to make extra money, so I really appreciate it. You know, just
Yeah.
So
I need to get to like
I just got walked through
50 and 1,000.
Yeah.
You said an owner finance deal, right?
Yeah, you literally just did an owner finance deal, and he didn't ask for more money.
Now, since this is my first deal, how do I get this notarized?
Everybody has to understand that there's two important things to every type of deal. And with creative financing, these are the two things that come into play every single time. That is the price and the terms. Like a lot of times people want a certain amount, but it's just too high. But you know what? With creative financing, you could pay them that amount, sometimes even more, because you get the terms that you want. As long as you get the terms that you want, the price almost doesn't matter a lot of the time, and vice versa. Let me give you a quick example of how the price and terms come into play. So Shema saw this camera for sale for $3,000, and he asked me, I don't have the money to buy this. How am I gonna be able to buy this? I was like, you know what? How much money are you gonna make every single month off that camera? He's like, man, I'll probably make $1,000 plus every single month if I have that camera. I was like, you know what? Well, let's do this. Let's figure out a strategy where you could pay him a few $100s a month until it's paid off. And because of that, just give him more than it's worth. I said, you know what? Are you comfortable paying $4,000 or $5,000 for this camera? He's like, oh my God, that much? I was like, well, think about it. You're gonna make $500, $600 every single month you own that camera. Who cares what you're really paying for it? And once I broke it down like that, he was like, okay, yeah, it makes sense. So I asked him, can you pay $10,000 for the camera? He was like, no, I can't. But you know what? I said, how about if you were to pay $10,000 for that camera and only pay $200 a month until it's paid off? Would you be able to do that? He's like, damn, I could do that. So that's an example of how you could pay a lot more because the price and the terms together make the deal worth buying. So there's so much more stuff that goes into creative financing that I could make videos forever, spending hours and hours, days and days making these videos. If you want to see some other cool videos on creative financing, specializing in certain specific things, comment below on other videos you want to see me make with creative financing so I could break it down even more for you. So now I'm going to get into the 5th side hustle for 2023 that if you're not doing, you're an idiot, because everyone I've seen do this has made so much money and it's such a cool thing. The problem with it is I just learned about this like literally in the last couple months, so I don't know enough about it yet, but my buddy Nitin over here knows way more than me about it, so I'm gonna let him come in here and tell you all about that side hustle.
So the 5th side hustle that a lot of my friends are doing because of new technology is using AI for Fiverr listings. So they're using things like DALL-E, ChatGPT, and Jasper to basically create listings on Fiverr for things that they would just type in the prompt and get a response, copy and paste it, and then give them a product. So here are a couple examples. People on Fiverr do things like write essays, write songs, writing commercials, scripting YouTube videos, getting inspirations for NFTs, creating artwork, doing basic code. So AI is so new that a lot of people don't realize its capabilities. Well, you do. Use that to your advantage. A ton of people are on Fiverr, and a large percentage of that user base may not know that they could have AI do a lot of these things for them. Take advantage of this opportunity, as you are one of the early people adapting to this new AI generated world. Now, just because it sounds super simple, there are definitely a lot of subtleties that make people successful and unsuccessful in doing this. You can't just make a new Fiverr account with zero feedback and expect people to buy your product. So how do you get around this? Well, I actually know a lot of my friends bought existing Fiverr accounts that already had 5 stars and hundreds of reviews. So as soon as they started creating new listings that would revolve around AI generated products, well, a ton of people started buying them because they were a trusted seller on the platform. These type of subtleties differentiate the person that gets people to buy their product and people that don't. The potential on this is huge because you can make unlimited amounts of listings for a whole bunch of different services, meaning that your amount of customers you could gain on a daily basis are infinite. So since Abraham has found out about AI, he's been finding a whole bunch of creative ways to implement it within his businesses, and we're actually planning to make a whole video on it. If that's something you guys want to see, comment down below. If you guys want to see some funny ways we use ChatGPT, click on this video above.